The Super Bowl just recently happened, and of course I didn't watch it. And I think it's utterly pathetic that conservatives and MAGA cucks still support that cesspool of a league that promotes LGBTQ and BLM Marxist BS. But the thing that I want to focus on uh, perfectly encapsulates Negro culture, which was Serena Williams, bleached and blonde, once again doing a Crip walk. And someone highlighted the fact that the same Crip walking that she does represents a gang who is responsible for her sister's murder. A South Side Crip gang member killed her sister. And guess what? Since it was the state of California, he got out after 12 years for murdering someone in the state of California, and he got out for good behavior. Imagine that. Good behavior. You can get released in California for murdering someone. Now, in a normal so called culture that claims to love their people, especially their own family members, you would think Serena Williams would be one of the biggest voices against gang violence and the Crip gang in particular. But instead, she and other stupid Negroes like her celebrate this nonsense, this death cult, which Kendrick Lamar is one among many other rappers that advertise this death cult that exists in gang culture, which is heavily involved in rap. But instead, she's, being a shoulder to cry on for Serena Williams because she got booed and Donald Trump got cheered. And, that's her primary concern. Even though she's a divester, it's, typical Negro jargon, complain about whitey, blame white supremacy and racism, but you don't have a single word against an actual active murderous organization in which one of its members murdered your own sister, your own flesh and blood. And you don't have any type of platform, no organization in your sister's memory to talk about this and condemn them. But I'm sure she was the one among many condemning races and white supremacy while vouching for BLM and George Floyd. And again, this is why I say, once again, libtards and especially liberal Negroes are some of the worst people in the world because they will posture and pose and express how much they truly care about any particular community, especially their so called own. But the primary dangers and threats to their so called community will forever go unnoticed. And even more so, they will actually celebrate the bullshit that terrorizes Negroes the most, which is other so called black people, particularly criminals that are affiliated black people. But again, that's what rap is. That's what hip hop is. It's it's a literal genre that promotes crime and criminals. Now of course you have certain rappers that poses as criminals, but their persona just the same is of an active criminal. And there are those who are criminals, which is why there's a regular high body count of dead rappers every year. through murder. No other genre, not just no other genre of music, no other genre of entertainment encompasses that reality. And yet, this is a thing that's heavily promoted. Mainstream, mainstream, by the way. And, to give you a concept of what this would be like, it would be like if you had, you know, various white nationalist groups that were being promoted by mainstream media. And some of them who were performers were actually inactive neo Nazi clans, criminal organizations committing crimes, but or affiliated with people committing crimes, but still getting mainstream support as performers. But instead, since it's Negroes, it's perfectly fine. That's the reality we're living in. And then again, someone who has suffered from the existence of this death cult that rap heavily promotes, instead of speaking out against it, they cry about Whitey and celebrate the group responsible for people that would murder her own flesh and blood. And again, people did call that on Twitter, and as expected, you had Negroes and libtards in general justifying it because that's what they do. They love spewing accusations against people, accusing them of being rapists or accusing them of being racist. Meanwhile, they actually defend actual rapists, racists, murderers, drug dealers, gangbangers, like true, real threats in the streets. Not imaginary threats. Because as we know, these people aren't afraid of any white racist groups, which is why they're so bold when they're talking crap about so called white racist groups. You're not boldly talking about things that you're actually afraid of. But anyway, you know, this is what you get, and this is why it's personally very easy for me to never support any of it. Even watching it for free is no longer interested, is no longer of interest to me. I heard the performance was garbage. I mean, I'm not really surprised because rappers in general are bad live performers. It's only been like a handful of them. And back in the day before gangster rap became rap, you did have some, solid rappers who could perform live, like Cool Mo D and Big Daddy Kane, Heavy D, among others, that had like background dancers and things like that. But once they got too cool and too gangster to actually be a performer, most of them have sucked. And the outliers that actually was able to still be good, like a DMX and a Tupac, well, they're dead. So generally, rappers who perform live suck. And again, another thing that's comical to me is that they're advertising this Kendrick like he's the symbolic king of rap, and a lot of these Negroes, of course, pro blackity blacks, act as if he's you know an authentic representation of the cause when it's like, yeah, anybody that's getting co-signed by the mainstream media, it's an utter joke to think or believe that they are some authentic representation of anything. But That's what you get with low IQ Negroes.